Hey guys, good to see you again. This here is the new Kalibrgun Argus 60. It comes to us from the Czech Republic, and this one here came to me by way of Charlie Freer over at Georgia Airguns. Today I'm going to walk you around it, and then I'm going to share with you what it is that I've learned about it thus far. What do I mean by thus far? Well, if you're new here, this isn't actually my main YouTube channel. This is an offshoot of the Airgun Exploration and Advancement channel, also known as AEAC Home. Over there, when I'm done with what it is that we're doing here, you will ultimately catch a full review of this gun. What that means to you is 50-yard testing, 100-yard testing, trigger, sound, refill, the whole kit and caboodle you'll find over there at a later date, probably just a few weeks from now. But before we get into all of the sharing, I gotta back up a little bit, and I want to be as plain and sincere about this as I possibly can, because I feel like there's a lot of people that aren't really familiar with Kalibrgun because they haven't really enjoyed the same celebrity status as a lot of the other boutique guns out there. So let me be really, really clear. They've been around for a long time, and these guns are freaking awesome, and they always have been. I hit rewind for myself back to, God, it's probably 2014 now. And my second ever private PCP purchase for myself before I bought my Benjamin Marauder was a Kalibrgun Cricket Standard. I wound up to go on to review that gun, I think it was later in 2015. And between now and then, I've probably had my hands on 5 or so others and have probably reviewed 1 or 2 more over the years. And every single one of them has been phenomenal. And I mean that in there's air guns, and then there's like a layer of air guns, these expensive boutique brands like Daystate, Brocock, FX, Air Arms, Rapid Air Weapons that kind of live up in that $1,500 to $2,000 price point. This gun also lives there. You're looking at about an $1,800 rig here. Their span, I would want to say, probably runs from $1,300 or $1,400 on up to about $2,000 here in the States. But they are freaking phenomenal and every bit as nice as all of those other brands. And I speak from the heart when I say that, because it's a brand I think a lot of, and I just wanted to relay that to you as sincerely as I possibly could. Now, moving forward a little bit, what's kind of been holding them back is this cocking lever. Over the last 5 years or 6 years that I've been familiar with the brand, it's kind of lived right back here in this area. And that's traditionally how things have been for a lot of brands, but the more fashionable thing to have done over the past few years is to move that cocking lever forward. So everything is really easily accessible right here. You're not having to come back here to do your cycling. And Kalibrgun, if you go over to their website, they've kind of gone back and they've updated their entire product line, moving that cocking lever from here up to here. And that's really the huge story with this brand. And I feel like it's probably one of the only things that's kind of kept people from moving forward with owning one. Because I got to tell you guys, if you don't have one of these in your collection, you're sincerely missing the boat. And it's a favorite. You know, I'm a YouTube reviewer for the industry. I'm not allowed to have favorites, but Kalibrgun has been a long time favorite of mine. So there it is, full disclosure. All right, nuts and bolts. We talked about price. You're in about the $1,800 price point. You're 32 inches long, so it's a nice compact bullpup. You're 9.2 pounds filled with air, kind of by itself without the bipod or scope. With the scope and mounts, you come in right at 11.3 pounds. That's going to make this a really good bench gun. It's also going to make it a good hunter when you've got a lot of crosswind. If ever you've picked up a 6 or 7 pound PCP and tried to hold on target when you've got a 4 or 5 mile an hour crosswind, that's tough to do. That little bit of weight's going to benefit you in both of those areas. Okay. Now, what kind of sets this gun apart? What makes it special? Well, it's fully regulated. That's a good thing. That's important to everybody, I know. But you'll also notice the air cylinder is massive. It runs from here all the way up to here. It's a 350cc air cylinder. So they've kind of incorporated it into the chassis of the gun end to end. and it's a 300 bar fill. Now, before you get your undies in a bundle, and I know a lot of you freak out, you're like, oh, I don't like 300 bar fills, and you know, my fill equipment won't take it there, and it's not worth it, and da 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 da. I don't disagree with you, okay? But we're starting to see more and more of these 300 bar fills in an industry where 200 to 250 is kind of the norm. What I learned with this one is if I fill it to 250 bar, which I would do as an owner of the gun, and it's kind of interesting. You go over to the Kalibrgun website, and they boast about the 300 bar fill and being one of the few guns that do that, but then you get into the owner's manual, and it kind of cautions you about that 300, about filling to 300 bar routinely, because it says that it's kind of tough on the gun and it can be tough on the longevity. So, you know, there's that. I contacted Kalibrgun for clarification. They're like, yeah, you know, that's right. We'll get that sorted out, but, you know, whatever. And that's basically all they gave me. But I do want to tell you, if I owned this gun, I would be running it to 250 bar, because I learned that by going to 300 bar, I'm only getting an additional 20 shots. And we'll get into that in a second. And it's really not that 20 shots when you're looking at 130 shot regulated string. You know, maybe if you're going out hunting all day and you have the ability, or like right now here in Florida, it's probably 73 degrees inside my house, and it's about 50 degrees outside. And I imagine for you guys living up north, you're probably 65, 70 in your house, and you're 20, 30 degrees outside. Well, as soon as I fill this up in here and I take it outdoors into that environment, it's going to start losing its pressure that's in its reservoir as that air condenses. That's a really nice, in that circumstance, it's really nice to have that 300 bar. What I would be doing as an owner is I'd be filling it up to 300 bar in that circumstance, then going outside. And what you'll notice after sitting out there for 30 minutes, that 300 bar will probably be, I don't know, 250, 260 bar as that air condenses. So there are real benefits to this, to where you can be a smart owner and use it in a good way. Here in Florida, I'd probably always be running it mostly around 250 bar. But if you live in a cold environment, it does give you that little added extra. Or if you want to run it to there, you know, you can. On that, if you look at the forums over the last 5 or 6 years where I've kind of been tuned into the brand, people love these. These guns are reliable. They're incredibly accurate. Their regulators are good, and they're built like freaking tanks. Like, this is not a dainty air gun. You know, if I ever ran out of air with this thing, I could probably use it as a billy club for home defense. I mean, this is a stout piece. I would say it's right up there. It kind of reminds me a lot of the Ed gun, to tell you the truth. It's just really rigid in its structure and overbuilt. So I hear a lot of people complain about the 6 and 7 pound boutique guns being kind of dainty and the barrels getting all knocked out of alignment and all these other things. If that's you, this could be a really, really good option for you. All right. Now, what else is really cool? So one of the biggest questions I get in the comments of my 2 YouTube channels is, Steve, you know, can this be a good gun for a lefty? All right. If that's you, then this can be a great gun for a lefty. And let me show you why. All right, so I'm a righty. I'm doing my little thing, you know, over here. All right, all right. Now, this cocking lever is reversible, and it's super easy to do. Let me kind of bring you in here. All right, I'm not going to do it because YouTube gets uncomfortable when we start showing things about how to, like, you know, change things around on air guns. But you simply undo this Allen and you undo this Allen, all right? And then you come over here to this side of the gun and you'll see an Allen right here. You undo that Allen and this plate comes off, okay? Then you come back over to this side of the gun and you can just pull this apparatus out. It's gonna be in there tight, and you wanna do some wiggle. You're gonna have to do some light wiggling and be gentle with it and just keep working it out. Then you bring it over here and you simply put it into this end, put those 2 screws in, take this plate, put it over on the other end, then take your little cocking drop down here. It's got an Allen at the top. You unscrew that And then that, because it's going to be upside down when you move it on this end, and then you can get that right to where you lefties can operate over here with forward cocking. And that is a huge deal when you look at the competition, because not a lot of them offer that. I remember the Daystate Red Wolf offering that fairly easily. You know, but that's not like up here. That's kind of like back here. I can't really think of any other brand. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, please. You know, I'm furthest thing on planet Earth from perfect. But to me, that is a big deal when you tie that to this gun's legacy. And I have a suspicion that Kalibrgun knows this. And that's why they've been kind of a silent, I don't want to say friend, but they've been a silent acquaintance of mine. You know, we're friendly at SHOT Show in Iowa. You know, the owner, Dimitri, but he's never taken that step and said, hey, Steve, I want to send you some product for review. And I think that he's arrived there finally, because he knows he has a serious contender with this brand offering all that it does. Now that he's got that cocking lever up here, he's got his little safety right here above the trigger in a good place. He's made some improvements to his magazine, and we'll get into that. And he wants the world to know about it, and he's retrofitted the entire lineup with it. I think you can still get the old Crickets. I think they call them the Cricket 1 and the Cricket 2 now if you look at the Kalibrgun site. But I would hit that up, and I would hit up Georgia Airguns as well to see what what's available here in the States. So yeah. Before we get into performance, let me kind of walk you around the gun a little bit, because you're probably looking at some stuff here going, oh, that's new. All right, let's start with the obvious. This shroud, all right? The shroud runs the entire length of the, I mean, granted, this is the shroud, but this piece runs the entire length of the gun. I will say, and I'll get into this with you in a little bit, I ran this gun from 27 foot-pounds on all the way up to 44 foot-pounds successfully. It's a 22 caliber. 44 foot-pounds and 22 caliber tends to, in my experience, need an additional aftermarket moderator up here. This one does not. Even when operating in kind of closed-in, fenced-in, echoey places, I did not find a need for an additional moderator, all right? So there's that. And what's really nice about that is it stays compact at 32 inches. It's nice and robust, all one big piece. A lot of you are like, oh, I banged the barrel of my 45-inch gun and my point of impact changes. Oh. Well, that's not going to be the case here. All right. If you do want to add an aftermarket moderator, you can. Kalibrgun is just shipping to the States now. They're 1/2 inch UNF adapters. I believe Donnie FL is also going to have one for you guys. And it's really easy to add one. Now you look here and it's got this cool square design, and you're looking at this going, well, how the hell do I get that? At first, I was trying to unscrew this plug. It doesn't work that way, okay? You'll see a little hex bit over here. It's actually a Torx bit. A little bitty Torx over on this side, all right? You undo those gently. They're tiny screws. And then this little plug just pulls right out the end, and then this little circle that you see in here, all right, that screws backwards out of the plug, and then the adapter somehow goes back into that. If you look up in here, you'll see all the little baffles. This is filled with metal baffles. They're in there tight. I don't hear them locking around. That was the little bipod that you heard there. So that's the shroud. I like the square thing. I know a lot of you aren't going to like it. I think it fits the lines of the guns. Fits the line of the guns great. It looks fantastic, but most important to me, it worked fantastic, and it never clipped one time. And I put a ton of product through the gun, and I'll share that with you here in a little bit. All right. Trigger. Okay, so the Kalibrguns, I'm trying to remember, used to have, I remember, they had the little push through like Ataman does. They had the little push through safety, if I remember. Didn't like that on that gun, didn't like it on the Kalibrguns. This is freaking fantastic. Cock the gun, there it is, okay? And then when you're ready to go, you just drop it. And off we go, okay? So they've really improved the safety. Big heavy duty metal trigger guard, big old pick rail on the bottom here integrated into the tube so that you can add your favorite bipod. The manometer is right up here on the front, shows that 300 bar down to, well, I'll just make it easy for you. The reg seems to be set to 110 bars. So you're going to be running this gun, most people are going to be running this gun between 100 and 250 bar. If you want to run it between 100 and 300, you know, have at it. But you fill it right through there. It comes with a little fill probe. I had no issues with that probe popping out, even up to 300 bar. I had no issues with the O-rings, and you guys know some of the brands don't do that as well. So that was good news. All right. The stock, okay. The Kalibrgun website says the stock is hardwood. It doesn't specify what kind. Looking at the grain, I'm going to guess it's some kind of beechwood. It's nice. You know, it's got a really, really nice feel to it. All right. Let's see, it's a pretty vertical kind of tactical type of pistol grip. This is nice. It's the little wood plate up here lines up well on my cheek. It's not like I'm back here on the metal. I'm kind of in my relaxed place and everything is good and where it should be. Some nice carvings in here to keep it light. Look, nice little rubber butt pad on the back here with the Kalibrgun logo. Hold that still so you guys can see it. And some nice stippling on the grip. If you want to get into the gun, I'll show you that in a little bit. It's Allen slides right off. You can have access to the velocity adjuster, the internal hammer spring adjuster, which is it's quite a bit more than actually an internal hammer spring adjuster in terms of its appearance and function. We'll get into that in a little bit. Nice big long real estate pick rail up here at the top, so you can get comfy with that. Whatever eye relief scope you're running or red dot or whatever, you're good to go here. All right. When you cock the gun, you see this little red plug back here? Watch it move when I cock the gun. That's how you know the gun's cocked. Kind of a nice little added bonus, you know, a little cocking indicator. And this little, looks like almost like a little sling strap right here. Or a little, so if I wanted to do like a 1-point sling on here, I probably could. I don't see anything up front. But maybe you could definitely do some kind of pick rail adapter and get that worked out. And the gun decocks. It's interesting how it decocks. Most of these guns, when you decock them, you get like a little click. This you don't. Just kind of, you feel nothing inside. All right, trigger. Let's talk about the trigger. So I have a story to share with you. And before you guys all put your mean hats on, I want you to hear me out with this story because there's some real positive takeaways from it. And I'm going to share with you the story, of course, and from my perspective, why a not great experience was in actually reality a really good one for me, and hopefully you guys will feel the same because I know a lot of you have been in this same position. So the gun came to me from Georgia Airguns. Charlie Freer is he's very well liked in the airgun communities. You get on the forums and everybody has great things to say about him because of the tender, loving care that he gives to his customers. All right. He doesn't just, you know, retail you the gun. He finds the best pellet for you. He makes sure the velocity is where he thinks it should be. He goes through the trigger. He adjusts the trigger to where he wants them to be. I think they come from Kalibrgun, probably set at a couple of pounds. He brings them down to around a pound. And as far as velocity, the chart that he sent me, it seemed like he was trying to get to around, probably 940-ish, excuse me, with an 18 grain. A little high for my tastes, probably fine for 25-yard hunting, unless there's something to this barrel. To back up a second, this is a cold steel forged 12 groove 17. I'm going to embarrass myself now. I'll probably get it wrong. If I do get it wrong, I'll put it up on the screen. I want to say it's a 17.3 twist or a 17.6 twist, something like that. But in my experience, it's kind of been weird. These Kalibrgun barrels have been unbelievably accurate at 50 and 100 yards, but it seems like they're set up to run ammo hotter than what us avid air gunners normally understand a Diablo-shaped pellet to travel well at, which is 830 to, let's call it 880 feet per second. That's the magic window where those pellets want to be to fly really stable to 50 and 100. Whether you're shooting the regular Diablo or the redesigns you can get away with a little bit more 900, 910. But 940, 950, I've never experienced a gun that'll have a pellet stable at 50 and 100 yards at those velocities. Never, ever. But Kalibrgun, you'll have to refer back to my reviews. I don't remember, they're 4 or 5 years ago, but I'm remembering kind of that was the way they were set up. 910, 920, 930, and they were running hot and doing fine at 50 and 100. But, so Charlie, he kind of puts his own love on the gun. So when I got the gun, the trigger was breaking at about 6 ounces, and it was a single stage. You'd basically just touch it, and it would go off. I ran it like that for like 500 shots. My week or 10 days of due diligence, if you guys don't know, follow me on Instagram, please. All of my tech notes are on there, all of my daily pictures. I've probably got 50 photographs and tech notes of my day-to-day learning, where I bring you guys all through what I've learned about this gun in real time. So literally, I discover it, boom, picture, note, it's up on Instagram. That's how that works. It's hooked on air, if you guys want to follow. There's 5,150 or so that do follow me over there. So thanks, guys. But if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty and maybe get the information fast and without it being distilled through me forgetting or talking in these videos, follow me there. But so I ran it for like 500 shots, doing my shot charts, all my 25-yard culling with pellets and slugs and all this other stuff. It's 6 ounces. And then I go to photograph the trigger for you guys on Instagram, to photograph those trigger adjustments. And there was a trigger adjustment screw was missing. And there was an O-ring. There's a trigger adjustment screw. There's an O-ring. It seats down into the bottom of the trigger, which kind of comes up this way back here. And that O-ring was in there. So I know it was in there at one time. So as a reviewer, what sometimes happens when I reach out for help in that kind of situation to a manufacturer or a retailer, sometimes you get all this like finger pointing because, they're embarrassed, guys. This is their livelihood. A lot of pride goes into here. People obviously love Charlie because he takes a lot of extra steps in making sure the gun is set up for an avid air gunner, for our U.S. market. And, so it's embarrassing for them. And sometimes you get a lot of finger pointing and a lot of denying. And that's frustrating for me because I'm trying to move on through this project and on to the next one because I have a 2-year supply of air guns waiting to be reviewed, and it's just, it gets tough. But what was so refreshing in this instance was I didn't get that from Charlie. He owned the mistake. Yeah, I reset those trigger screws and to get them to where, I think my customers are going to like them and something might have happened there. I'm sorry, Steve, I'll overnight you a screw. And boom, he overnighted me a screw. Now, you guys out there in the retail world, I don't want to set the expectation that you're going to get overnighted parts, by Georgia Air Guns because that gets expensive. But he took that extra step for me to kind of get me back on the road. And that was a really nice thing. All right, so the story goes even deeper. So I get the screw, and I'm trying to adjust it. There's no instructions in this owner's manual on how to adjust velocity or on how to set the trigger. And they're both very adjustable. So I'm going to get into that with you a little bit today, the broad strokes anyway, without trying to offend YouTube. But so I'm over there, I'm trying to fix the part that he overnighted or whatever. And the gun actually slid off of this thing. Okay, slid off of this thing because I had it upside down to get to the trigger. And it landed on the sharp edge of the magazine, and I put a gouge in the bottom of the shroud. So I reached out to Kalibrgun. I reached out to Georgia. I'm like, guys, I'm sorry. I effed up. I scratched your gun. Immediately, Kalibrgun jumped into action. Hey, Charlie, you know, can we get this gun overnighted back to you? And can you please replace the shroud? Which was a big deal, by the way. Replacing the shroud on this thing ain't like unscrewing something. You're taking a lot of things apart. Charlie's like, yeah, man, get it to me. I'll get it taken care of. And those guys did. And they did it like in super quick form. And that story is not gonna, you can look back at 5 years of Kalibrgun. Never once has there ever been any kind of like trigger anything on the forums. It's all been good. Mine have always been phenomenal. And same thing with Charlie. He's got a reputation of being great. But I wanted to share that story with you because while we're all human, and like me, I'm the furthest thing from perfect, shit happens. But what's really important is how the distributor, the retailer, the manufacturer, how they deal with the customer when the doo-doo hits the fan. And lately, I've had some challenges on my channel. You know, I won't say anything more than that. But and it was just refreshing to get that really nice cycle of service where they own the problem, they fix it quickly, even though I effed it up. Is Charlie or Kalibrgun going to replace your shroud if you scratch it? No, they're not going to do that because that's not a warranty item, right? But this gun is meant to be a gift for our Airgun Nation Review Discuss Win event winner, and we'll get into that later. So for what it's worth, guys, that's my story with this gun. So I wound up sending it back. Charlie fixed the trigger. He fixed the shroud. Now the trigger, it came back breaking at about a 1 pound, about 1.5 pounds or so. I put the gauge on it last night, and I'm going to run with it there for the 50 and 100 yard. All of the 25 yard call you saw here, I did it at 6 ounces. So, you know, I may not be able to do as well at 50 or 100. We'll see. I'll try. But the trigger can basically be made. Let me see if I want to go down this. I might as well go down this rabbit. No, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole with you now. Let's get through some of this other stuff first. Okay. As long as I got the magazine out. Let's do a couple of things here. Then we'll get into shot charts, and then I'll get into the other stuff because I have to take the stock off to show you. So this is their new magazine. I had no problems with the old Kalibrgun magazine. I liked it. I liked all the onboard storage with them. I liked how easy it was to load it. I had no problems with it being back here. But they went ahead and changed it because I guess some people were fussing about it. This is all metal. It's very high quality. It is not lightweight or chintzy. What was good about it, there's a couple things that are good about it, is I put everything through here from 18 grain to 35, 40 grain slugs. It ate everything. I put every single pellet I had here from H&N and JSB and all the different variants and Nielsen specialty ammo and the FX hybrids and the Alturo slug. I put everything in this thing. It ate it all and fed it all flawlessly. And that's the primary job of any magazine, to do that and to not break. What else is cool about it is it fits perfectly flush right up in here. And that's really a nice deal. It's perfectly flush up at the top. I do want to give you this little tip. You see these are little spring detents, ball detents down in here. Okay, and they fall into these little holes on the bottom of the magazine. Okay, when you line it up in here, okay, if I push up here, it's not gonna go in. If I push here, it's not gonna go in. If I give it a little light push on the bottom, just pops right in. So to save you guys struggling with that, that's a little tip to doing that. This little lever you see here on the top of the magazine, okay, that's where I found it useful was to keep the double feeding. So for example, if this lever is in the top position, it will cycle pellets through the magazine as it should. If you've got one in there and you find yourself to where you're about to double feed or whatever, rather than taking out the magazine to fire, you can just, I'm going to try to do this where you guys can see it because the movement is like 1 millimeter. You can just, that little click there, now when I go to cycle this, it won't cycle the magazine and double feed it. I don't know what that's called, but that's what it does. All right. So that's the magazine. let's get into kind of the performance a little bit, because that's really, really key. So I ran two shot charts for you guys. I ran an 18 grain and I ran a 25 grain. Because it's a 22 cal pup. And those are the weights that that are most commonly shot in 22 cal in the airgun world. All right. With the 18 grain, with the JSB 18.13 on a 300 bar fill, and remember when I share these numbers with you, going to 250 bar, you're only leaving 20 shots on the table, going from 250 to 300. 148 regulated shots, all right, at 35 foot-pounds. Put that in perspective, guys. A lot of 22 cals are tuned to 25, I want to say 25 to probably 30, 32, 33 foot-pounds in my experience. That's how most of them come. 35 is running pretty hot with an 18 grain, 35 foot-pounds, right? So 148 regulated shots. So if I filled a 250 bar, I'm getting 128. Let's just call it 130, all right? 950 feet was the high, 926 was the low. The average was 936 feet per second with an 18 grain. That's cooking. I like my guns 830 to 880 with an 18 grain. All right. Extreme spread across all that 148 shots, only 24 feet per second. What that means to us is that's 148 usable shots at 50 and 100 yards. Because as we know, anything inside 20, 25 feet per second, you're not going to see any sort of difference in that drop from 50, when dialed in at 50, moving out to 100 or whatever. You're just not gonna. 25 feet per second over 935 is not enough to make a significant change. All right. Standard deviation, only 5 feet per second. Average foot-pounds across the 148, 35. Good stuff. Thanks to the 350cc air reservoir, by the way, which you can drain externally. That little Allen right here. That little Allen right there. Back it out a tenth of a turn, it's going to start hissing air, right? So that's how you get the air out of it, if ever you needed to change a gauge or whatever. So then I'm like, all right, 300 bar down to 100 bar. I'm sure you guys saw that on the screen. And I put in the 25.39 JSB redesigns. All right, that's a heavy pellet. All right, it's pushing them to an average of 806 feet per second across 127 shots. From 300 bar to 110. 110 is where it falls off the rag. The gun seems to have come tuned from Kalibrgun or Charlie for an 18 grain, because whenever you see it fall off the rag at the 110, showing you this other, and then come back up and fall off again, now it's kind of living past the rag, and it's just that balancing, you know, with the valve up against the pressure, valve spring and the pressure in the reservoir. So, but falls off hard at 110 on the 25 grains. Standard deviation across 127 shots at 37 foot-pounds, just 3.75 feet per second. Extreme spread, 16 feet per second. Guys, that's right up there, as I said, with these other boutique brands that have enjoyed a lot more popularity over the 5 years that I've been following it. I think only because of that having been back here. Now it's up here, and it's reversible. And you get this, and we're about to jump into the power adjuster. I'm telling you. A lot of good things going on here. All right, so that's shot charts. If you take off the stock, we'll do that in a second. Let me get into ammo here quickly, and then we'll dive into that. I ran everything through it, like every kind of lead you can possibly imagine, all right? Really simple. All of the JSB 18 grain variants, which means, where are they here? The 18 that we know and love, right? The Air Arms 18 grain that's been around forever, right? The new Daystate Rangemaster 18 grains that are custom built for the Lothar Walther barrels that are inside the match grade barrels that are inside the Daystates now. The new FX 18 grain pellets, all right? The brand new, I don't even think that these are in stores yet. This came to me like in a box from Germany, from H&N, like a week ago. The new H&N Barracuda 18s, all right? It liked all of those at 25 yards consistently. No problem. Running them between 27 and 44 foot-pounds of energy. And I'll get into that a little bit more, okay? It liked all of the 25 grain stuff. It liked the redesigns. By the way, all these 18 grains, I should have said, it's pushing them to, like we said, 930-ish, 935-ish. Doing pretty good. I ran them down as low as like 850, 880. They still flew true. Okay, all right. The heavier stuff, the 25 grains, did great with the redesigns. On full burn, it did great. I tweaked this all the way up to 44 foot-pounds, pushing these to 880. Did great. Okay. Same thing with the FX 25.4 grains, which JSB makes these for FX in a different die. Liked these as well. Same thing with the Daystate Rangemaster 25.38 grains. JSB makes these for Daystate in their own dies. So I ran these from the 810 feet per second that you see in the shot charts on all the way up to about 880. They flew straight across the whole deal. Kalibrgun knows how to make its barrels, all right? So everyone wants to know about slugs. I ran every slug I had through here, guys. Really simple. It liked two. This is a choke barrel designed for Diablo-shaped pellets. At 25 yards, it loved the Nielsen Specialty Ammo 20 and 23 grain slugs. They cycled through the magazine great. They fit great. All right. 20.2 and 23 grain. Those are the two it liked. I hope those stay stable to 50 and 100 yards. If they do, you'll see them in the full review on AEAC Home in a couple of weeks. And they flew well from 880 to 930. Those 20 grains were going like 930, and those 23 grains were going about 880. Did great at those velocities. So you got a lot of options. Didn't like a lot of stuff, but it also liked a lot of stuff. To me, it's clear that when Kalibrgun developed this, they developed it around the JSB products. I don't think they knew that it was going to also like these new H&M Barracuda 18s or these slugs, which is all icing on top for me. Okay, let's talk about power adjustment. I got some cool things to share with you there. Let's do this. Okay. So it's regulated, right? And in a lot of air guns, actually in a lot, I've never experienced an air gun that if I altered the hammer spring, I had to adjust the regulator. You know, as you've seen in a lot of my setup guides and tuning guides here, you got to work them up together and you got to work them down together. Now, admittedly, I didn't run full shot strings after messing with the internal hammer spring adjuster. And there's a reason for that, and I'll just tell you guys. So, Kalibrgun didn't order a full tuning guide, and that's okay. I get really expensive for these. I get really expensive for these manufacturers to have reviews on my channel, and that's kind of a lot of extra money because it's a lot of extra time on my end. All right, so I'm not going to get too much into this. I'm grateful that they're finally talking to me, and we're getting some stuff going so I can share with you guys. So I'm not knocking them. I'm trying to say that it's okay because it's not for everybody, and I'm expensive. But I had so much fun playing with this internal hammer spring adjuster. Okay, I had so much fun playing with this internal hammer spring adjuster. I gotta share some stuff with you. I can't keep it inside because I'm like busting. So normally, like I said, you got to work the reg up together and you got to work the hammer spring up. You got to work them up and down together. I didn't find that with this. And what I mean by that is I successfully ran this gun, let's say with an 18 grain, where I saw extreme spreads just in my experimentation from 110 bar on up through 250 bar. They were staying within 20, 25 feet per second, no matter how I adjusted this. Now, maybe one of you will adjust it, run a shot chart, and it'll look totally different, but I don't suspect so, but I could be wrong. But I had success in running an 18 grain as low as 850, 830, no problem. I pushed those up to 970, 980 with plenty of headroom to go, no problem. A 25 grain, no problem running them between 830. 880 was the max. That's 880 feet per second with a 25 grain, or 44.1, 0.2, 0.3 in that range. Foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle is what I was getting. That's all the horsepower that the gun had to give. Not complaining. That's way more than I expected in a 22 cal. If I get a 22 cal that's running 27 to 33 foot-pounds, I'm a happy boy. This thing's running 44 if you want it to. And it was crisp, and it was tight, and the shot cycle was clean, and it sounded good, and it felt good, and the accuracy was there. But the way you do this is super, super easy. So here's the internal hammer spring adjuster. You slide an Allen in the back here through that little hole to release a lock nut, a little bitty lock nut. I forget, it's like a 2 millimeter. It's around a 2 millimeter. Then you just put a screwdriver in here and you start turning it. All right, I put a couple of little Sharpie dots on here so that I could keep track of things. All right, and let me like think about this so I say it right. I don't want to drop this twice. Charlie and Dimitri are going to kill me if I do. All right, so 3 complete revolution. Right now where you're seeing this is all bulged out, I've got it set running about 885-ish with an 18 grain. That's with this backed out quite a bit. All right. Turned in 3 full, let me word it this way. 3 full turns of adjustment on that will run you from 880 feet per second with an 18 grain to 880 feet per second with a 25 grain. So basically 27 to 44 foot-pounds in 3 complete turns. And it's very sensitive. Quarter turn, eighth of a turn, you're going to immediately see a return and you're going to immediately see a different velocity registering. It was so nice to use and so responsive and so honestly easy to access with just, you know, those 2 screws, and it just comes right off. And it was just a really nice time. For a while I had it clamped in the vise with, you know, I put on the special soft plastic, and when I say clamped, I mean lightly clamped. Look how just robust and built this thing is down in here. This ain't no mamby-pamby chintzy metal. It's a really tough built gun. Trigger. So I'm not going to show you how to do this because sometimes YouTube can get upset at that, but here's the linkage from your trigger down. All your trigger stuff is in here. All your adjustments are in here. You take that plate off, you can see everything that's happening in there. It makes it really easy to adjust. But this can be made, this can be a single stage. It's a single stage trigger. But when I owned my caliber guns and I reviewed them, I had them set up to feel like really nice 2 stages. This turnbuckle here, you undo it, and by turning it, you can adjust the play, and that's going to induce a feeling of a 2 stage. Where you've got some take up and then bang, take up and bang. What you want to realize is as you adjust this, you're also going to need to adjust the, I can see it, the screws in there now, Charlie. I can see the screw down in there. You're going to have to adjust them together because just as with any other trigger, you got to work those up together. You got to work them down together. If I adjust this linkage, I'm going to induce creep into the brake. So you got to do that together. Charlie was talking to me about some kind of other adjustment on the back side of this, man. I don't see it. And like I said, there's nothing in here, so I don't even know if you want to fiddle with it. But if you want to fiddle with it, the potential is there for you to tinker. And I think that that's probably all I've got to say about that. Okay. Oh, what else? I think that's it, guys. We're gonna let me get into this over here. Let me talk about the scope a little bit. And if you're new here, the Airgun Nation forum hosts monthly airgun giveaways, meaning that the airgun industry, its retailers, its distributors, its manufacturers like to host these big review, discuss, win events, which is where I get to review the product. You guys get to watch it, see how terrific or not terrific it is, then head over to the Airgun Nation forum and enter a simple lottery-based giveaway. And these only have usually a couple of thousand people enter them. So the odds of winning are very, very much in your favor. And Kalibrgun, to their credit, they wanted to be a part of this. So like I said, I get spendy. Now they're donating a gun. So that's kind of a lot of money for them. So this actual review gun, the one you see right here, this is going to one of you guys when I'm done with it. So make sure you get subscribed over on AEAC Home, my primary YouTube channel, so you know when that video launches. My full review spearheads the event. That you get signed up over at the Airgun Nation forum. You got to become a member. It's literally like name, email, pick like a member name for yourself, a public name, and you're done. And enjoy this stuff, okay? Hawks participating, you get the scope. So is Sports Match, you get the adjustable scope mount rings. That's $420 and probably $120 right there in addition to the $1,800. I reached out to Airguns of Arizona because I felt like the giveaway was a little bit light and I wanted more product in the video to make it more interesting for you guys. And I asked them for one of these air cronies. All right, let me share this with you. It's pretty slick. So this is an air crony. So we're all used to the cronies, you know, with the steel rods and the little plastic shades, and they never track the copper pellets and they never track the little pellets. And if the sun and the shading isn't just right, they don't work. I had great luck with this one in all lighting conditions. It's really kind of a cool deal. You just turn it on. You can see the display there. If you look really closely at this display, I inadvertently shot this with something. Excuse me. Obviously, I didn't shoot it with 27 to 34 foot-pounds or 27 to 44 foot-pounds because this thing would have disintegrated. But, you know, I was running the muzzle probably, I don't know, 8-10 inches back from, you shoot through here and it registers. And some kind of either Kalibrgun factory guts came out, or maybe there was a little bit of clipping and some lead splattered on the display of this. And I've reached out to Airguns of Arizona. By no means they owe us a new one. So I don't know if they're going to give us a new one, but the winner gets this thing as well. And this thing's badass. You dial in the weight of the pellet, and it immediately tells you the velocity and the foot-pounds of energy with every shot you take. It's got a shot counter. It does extreme spread, standard deviation, high, low, average. It does all that through the buttons. You can change the brightness of the display. I've got, I think it's three AAA batteries in here it runs off of. Or you can plug it directly into 110. Like if you've got I don't know, if you've got like a wall outlet by where you shoot, or want to run an extension cord. Where's the little, you know, this guy. You can download the software from AirCrony, and then you can it has memory inside where you can capture all of your shot charts and export and import them into Excel. I use Excel when I do these shot charts. I just export them from the Lab Radar. This here is so that the unit can talk to your computer for firmware updates and to transfer that data, that stored data, those shot strings into the computer. You just have to download their software. There's nothing on the app market for them, but it's a free download from their website. And I think you're $260-ish. And I gotta say, I really, really, really like this thing. It's small. It comes in a sweet, sweet little carry case. This is not chintzy. This thing's padded, thick padded, nice heavy duty. It's got the little, like, you know, strap on the back or whatever. And it's got the 1/4 inch, here, I'll show you this. It's got the 1/4 inch little tripod threaded deal on the bottom so that you can hook a camera tripod to it. It's even got these little rubber feet if you wanted to like set it, I don't know, set it on a bunch of pellet tins or whatever. It's a neat little deal. You can see right on there. It says FPE, FPS. You can change that FPS to like meters per second. They've got like 5 or 6 different choices. It speaks like 8 different languages. You can put all the different languages in there for your setup. So if you're watching this and you live in, I don't know, you live in China or Japan, it'll speak those languages. And so, you know, a lot of good things going on with this little deal, guys. So when you add all of that together, plus I think Nielsen Specialty Ammo is going to get in on that review, discuss, win with Kalibrgun and Hawk and Sports Match Rings UK. We're gonna have ourselves a good one. All right. The scope. So this is a new scope from Hawk, and I also have their brand new Sidewinder. You guys remember when we were all introduced to the Sidewinder? Ted Beer from Ted's Holdover put that bad boy on the map in the airgun industry, and I think probably a lot of us has owned one. I still have a couple of those, that exact same model. Hawk has a brand new Sidewinder. And when I say brand new, it's like brand new from the ground up. They changed it so completely, they were thinking of actually changing the name, but they decided to kind of keep with that Sidewinder name because of that brand recognition. They felt you guys knew that product is good. They've apparently taken it to a whole another level. I've got one here to review. I don't know what gun I'm going to put it on. But these Hawk Vantages are also phenomenal. This is a $420 scope. I think they retail $480. I started looking around online, and most places were selling them around $480 or $420. It's a 4-16 by 50. It's an FFP scope, which means that you're not going to have to induce elevation changes as you change magnification in the reticle. All that stays consistent all the way from that 4 to 16. It's an extra wide. It's got an extra wide field of view. Also, it's something that they build into the scope. And when you look through this thing, guys, it's like wide, and it's a nice scope. The AO ranging. Let's see where it's set to. So it's set. I'm looking at this, and it looks like right about 23, 24 yards, and I had the target at 25. A lot of the scopes, they don't like the AO ranging seems to be off in close, and it seems to be on at 50 and 100. I call that on at 25, and it's a nice scope. It's got a etch reticle, illuminated reticle. Everything's these just both pop to turn, nice and clean, and this is just butter. And you know I love me some Sports Match mounts too. These are their adjustables. I actually put this. I'm glad this actually reminded me of this. This is crazy. So one of the ways in which I gauge the caliber of the machining process, the fit and finish, the design of an airgun manufacturer, how robust the thing is, I set these scopes always to an optical center, to an optical center, and then I see how they do at 20 feet, 50 feet, 25 yards. And I did that with the Kalibrgun Argus 60, and it was dead on at 25 yards with a scope on an optical center just mounted up here, which tells me everything on here is very true. The rail to the barrel to the shroud to the chassis. That's a really good sign, guys, and that kind of takes us back full circle to these guns, guys. I'm telling you. This Kalibrgun, I feel like, is awakened a sleeping giant just by taking this cocking lever, moving it up here, and making it reversible. I don't know what would stop anybody from buying one of these unless you're sensitive to the weight or the price. Me personally, I love a 6 or 7 pound gun as much as anybody for hunting. But try taking that out and taking some long distance shots when you've got a good crosswind. Tough. And so that little extra weight's going to be good. And I'll tell you guys, as a bench gun, this thing was awesome. Just awesome. Incredibly planted. Didn't seem to matter where I put the bipod. Didn't mess with point of impact. And yeah, I think I've reached the point of rambling. So, kind of coming full circle, guys. Remember, if you're new, get subscribed over at the Airgun Exploration and Advancement channel. This is just a little baby channel. There's like 15,000 of you here. There's 75,000 of you over there. That's where all the good stuff happens. This is more discovery approach and classroom for those of you that are new and want to be kind of slowly and intimately walked around the gun. And I've got today and tomorrow, the next 3 days are like literally 25-mile-an-hour winds. You could probably hear the wind chime going in the backyard. It is terrible. But I'm going to go out and start filming everything but groups. And then later in the week when that wind comes down, we'll film us some 50 and 100, see what of this works there. What does work at those distances out there, I'll share in that video, that final review over on AEAC Home. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope this video brightened your day a little bit. And I'll see you in a couple weeks over there. See you guys.